Hey, what's up everybody? It is Dave and I am back, and today we are gonna do something really weird. We are not gonna do a review at all. Lately, I've been trying to teach myself how to do vector drawing. I made a post on Reddit the other day, and if you're not familiar with Reddit, you should be, because it's awesome. Big shout out to the people in the graphic design subreddit, because they gave me a lot of love. I posted progression drawing of I started with like a cigarette lighter. A lot of people really liked it. I got a lot of kind of vibes back, which was really cool, and a lot of debate on, you know, like the pros and cons of different styles and all sorts of stuff. My favorite comment by far was this one person. They basically, it's deleted now, and I don't know who they are anymore because they deleted their comment, but their comment was, it was something along the lines of, I hate both versions, they both suck. And it was my favorite comment, but they're gone now. But I remember you, and you'll always be in my heart. One of the things that popped up a lot in there was people asking, what are you doing to practice? How can I get better at vector drawing? So far, I've just been on YouTube and checking out tutorials and different stuff. So I was thinking about doing a series of these, a series of videos showing how I do drawing, and that's gonna be kind of time consuming and probably take a little more time than this video is gonna take. But what this is, the other day I drew Mr. T's van from the A-Team, and I drew it on my iPad using a program called Affinity Designer. And I have never tried doing this before, and I don't know if this is gonna work. It took me 2 hours to draw that van, and I don't think you or I want to sit here for 2 hours while I yap about how I draw. So what I did is I speeded it up by 6 times, so it's around like 15, I think like 13 to 15 minutes, somewhere around there. So what I'm gonna attempt to do, I'm gonna watch it with you here, and then I'm also gonna edit it somewhere over here so you can watch it, and I'll be like tiny over here. I'm gonna be like over here somewhere. I can give you some pointers and some tips on how to do vector art. Please sound off in the comments if there are sections of this speed drawing that you want fleshed out more. So if there's like a type of the lighting, or how I do use my layers, or like the pen tool or something. That's how I learned, just random people talking about stuff on the internet, but it is tedious to like pick through the tutorials and try to figure out what people are talking about sometimes. And most of what you'll see today is applicable in Adobe Illustrator. I use Illustrator too, but I really like Affinity. If you have an iPad, I highly suggest checking out Affinity. I think it's like 20 bucks, and that's it. You just pay 20 bucks. You don't have to do the Adobe dance of 50 bucks every month, which sucks. I really like how it's quick. It uses a lot of gesture control instead of a keyboard. So all you need is, like, I use an Apple Pencil. You could use your fingers if you want to. I've seen a couple of people talk about how they actually pull it off pretty well, but for me, the precision of the pencil works really well. Enough yapping, let's get into it. Hold on a second. That's better. That seems more fitting. And it's hot. I don't know where you live, but it's 100 degrees here. So I'm having a beer. I'm gonna attempt to start watching this here, and you're gonna be watching it on there. And as I said, it's gonna be really, really fast. I'm gonna try to keep, I'm gonna attempt to keep up. So here we go. You ready? Okay, so first thing, there's a reference photo. Some people like to trace over an image. I like to just find a picture and use it as reference and look at it. All right, so we're off. I used a rectangle. So you can see, you can adjust the outline stroke color or the internal fill, right? So this is just black on gray, and there goes the rectangle. I'm already starting to block out the profile of the van, right? And by using the, I don't know what you call it in Illustrator, you have two selections. You have your main selector, and you also have like your component selector. You can start tweaking your points and your lines, using those wheels to subtract out space on that original rectangle. Holy shit, me, slow down. I'm giving this van like a very cartoony feel, and I've raked the roof down, right? So that's just the shape that I'm going for. And it just depends on the person. You might want like a more pulled back subtle look, or a more realistic look. Now I'm going after the bumpers, but everything is just primitive shapes, right? And you can add or subtract information out of them. Like those wheel wells were just circles that I cut out, right? And I like to pillow my lines a lot, like kind of, I like to kind of flow them out, right? See how that window, none of the lines are real straight. And that's just a personal choice. Here comes a reflector and some kind of a detailed trim line across the top. So that's just an edge. That's a single edge with no fill, right? So that's just one side of a shape basically for a detail, curved. I'm going after that window a little bit more. And it's constant tweaking. You're always like, you never settle on one look. Now I'm starting to do a headlight. And I recently learned that in Affinity, you can scale to an object. So right here, I had some problems with this because I built the headlights so big, and when I scaled it down, the lines were staying the same size. So I learned that one the hard way. And, but I was gonna say, if I hadn't figured that out, I was gonna say build your objects a little bit smaller to go with the image. But now that I figured it out, you just scale the object and your lines will decrease in size, right? So the problem I was having is it was that big and I was scaling it down, and then the lines were right there. You could see it. You could see it. It jacked it all up. See how the lines are staying the same thickness? There's a setting in there and you can scale the shape. Yeah, right, that's me getting mad. I'm getting pissed off and I'm like, why aren't you scaling correct? That's kind of funny. Yeah, so just, yeah, see, so it's breaking the curves. It's becoming jelly bean shaped rather than more kind of a softened rectangle. So I had to go back in there and kind of like retweak it by hand. But if you scale to object, you don't have to worry about that. If you scale it to the object, then it'll keep your lines the right size. But live and learn, right? Like I've only been doing this about a month, so I'm learning stuff every day. There's your headlight. There you go. So that's a big pointer right there. Asset reuse, right? So don't build another headlight. Just use that same one. And I even use it as like a fog light later and just change the size and the color, but you can save yourself a lot of time by just reusing an asset. So there's a detail line for like the hood. And Affinity has a really cool line adjustment tool in it. So you can go through, it basically just gives you a graph, almost like curves in Photoshop, and you pick how thick you want the line to be. So now I'm going after the door paneling, you know, and you just start blocking stuff out. You just block what you want out and just keep going back. And you know, if it doesn't look good at first, don't worry about it. Just keep kind of hacking away. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. But yeah. So there I'm getting my curves a little bit more refined. A lot of times I'll work on something and then I'll go to another part of the drawing and come back and be like, I really don't like how that looks, and it will just keep evolving. Oh, here we go. So there's the reflector, right? So you got this orange reflector. This is a big tip. So I pulled the same shape off, cloned it, subtracted it from the original one right there, and then use that as your highlight, right? So then set it to an overlay in your layers and see how you get that nice even shading. You can go in and hand shade it if you want to, but the shape's already there, and most things that are usually mechanical in nature will have a very similar highlight to the shape of the object. It doesn't work so good with organic stuff, but see how you get that highlight on the reflector? Now I'm building the hinge, so it's super simple, very large, but there you go. Looking at the reference photos. That's why it's good to have a reference photo. You can have it on your phone. You don't have to have it in the application, but I like to put it next to there and just delete it later. But that way I can very quickly go back and forth and look at it for reference. I don't like tracing on top of images because it gets this very kind of like artificial rotoscoped kind of feel, like it gets too perfect. So I like having it as a reference, but not in the image, because you don't get too identical to a photograph, right? Making some kind of window support. Here comes the door handle. So right there, I just pulled the corners in. So you start out with a rectangle, you just pull the corners in. If you wanted to go extra crazy, you could actually make it almost like an oval, but you get to pick. See right there, so that started as a rectangle, now it's an oval, and now I'm flaring it out to make the door handle and scaling it and angling it. So there you go, there's a real simple door handle. And then adjusting the line, you can't have a door without a lock. So there you go, there goes the keyhole, and I accidentally put it inside the object. In Affinity, if you drag your layer on top of another layer and you put the line right in the middle, you make a clipping mask, so it'll only show what's inside the object, which is really handy. Messing with headlights, I don't know what I'm doing now. Tires, ooh, rainbow tires. Super fast Dave. Oh, so like right there, you can see the bumper is inside the object because I screwed up right there. I haven't realized it yet. But you can see that the shape of the van is clipping the bumper. Like they should extend further out, but like in that case, it doesn't work so great. But in some cases, you might want that. You might have a shape and you don't want it to exist outside of that. So you just drag it down. Like if here's a layer, you'll see a blue line like right in the middle, and that'll stand. I pulled it back out right there. So now see how it's extending past the line? So if you drag it down in the middle, it'll use it as a clipping mask. Building the bumper. So just again, primitive shapes that started as a rectangle, and I'm using the Bezier handles. If you hold down Alt in Illustrator or just touch the screen when you're moving the Bezier curve, you'll break it. So when you move one handle, it moves the other side. If you hit Alt or hit the screen for your gesture like modifier, you can move the Bezier handles separately, right? Which lets you get better shapes. If you want like a real sharp kink in a turn instead of being a smooth curve, do a lot of practice with Bezier curves. They'll be worth it in the long run. So here right now I'm adding a detail to the side, like simulating the edge of the object, and I've just changed the line width on that line so that there's a break in the middle, and now the bumper is angled in. But that's the same headlight, so I just changed the color and added like a little bit of different, I took those little screw holes off. So yeah, asset reuse is good. It saves you time, you know? I mean, if you want to take a long time to draw, so if you have the time, then, you know, who cares? But if you are kind of pushed for time, reuse things. That comes in a lot with lighting. So now I'm starting to block out the color for the van. So there's this kind of color scheme. Shut up, phone. There's this color scheme. So right there you can see you don't have to be super precise, because I think this is a multiply layer. I usually use either multiply or overlay. But you know, you can be a little bit sloppy because it's inside the line. Because it's not going to affect the color of the line if you do a multiply or overlay, so that black line is kind of a cheat. But as long as it's in there, and then you got that curve that's kind of going up the side of the van. And what am I going for? I think I tried something here, and it didn't really, it worked, but it didn't work the best. So what I did is I grabbed that bottom layer of color and grabbed the bottom points, the vertices, and pulled them up, right? So I pulled like I pulled a Marilyn Monroe walking over the sewer grating in New York, so the dress like flew up. So I grabbed the bottom points and pulled you can see on the bottom is the darker shading. I pulled it up so I would keep that line. It didn't really work. It's okay, I still had to tweak a little bit, but I didn't have to redraw that curve, right? So asset recycling, asset reuse, right? So I used that same dark shade, but just flipped only the bottom. So here's the points. I grabbed these ones and pulled them above the top border for the red. And then yeah, so like another benefit of having an image in there is I could actually sample the color red from the photograph, right? I ended up using a slightly different color red, but it gives you a direction to head in, right? So now you can use that red as a reference. So I'm putting some shading on the tire. Doing stuff, but, and I apologize for all the zoom ins and outs, but this is the best I can do right now. I don't know, I've never made one of these before, but like a lot of people were like, hey man, can you suggest some tutorials or help me out learn stuff? So I'm trying. So now we're starting to get in the direction that we want to go in, right? Like I personally like the angle of the vehicle, like it's very exaggerated, and it works for this example. You know, that might not be what you want for everything, but and then you got, you know, as you see your layers, Affinity does a really good job of grouping layers. I like to kind of go by, so like the van body is one set of layers and groups, the tires are another, all the accessories like the door handle and the window and the hinge all live on one set of a group. And then I throw an outline around my black outline. So basically what I did is I just grabbed all those shapes, grouped them, deleted everything on the inside, and then expanded the stroke on that layer. Like I turned it that kind of cream color and then expanded it to get that outline. And I do the same thing with black too. So every time I add a new, you'll see there's like a sun visor and the back spoiler. So if you do that, when you add new objects, you need to add them to the outline layers, right? So it'll make more sense. Let's see. So asset recycling again. So I took that orange reflector from the front and I'm gonna make it into a brake light by just shifting the hue and then the highlight, because red is a little bit, it doesn't show up on an overlay as much, so you gotta adjust your highlight layer and kind of bump the white up on that a little bit. And now just adding some detail lines. I don't know what you call those. Body creases or something. Okay, so here's a highlight. So I made that line, I duplicated it, scaled it down slightly and narrowed the width of the line, and then made it into an overlay and nudged it in the Y direction up, right? So now you got that highlight. And I'm gonna do the same thing here, but that way it gives you, it never fails. Every time I make any kind of video, someone knocks on the door. Zombie's pissed. He's not having it. But hopefully I got something cool in the mail. So right there you can see by using the modular, or not the modular, but I guess it's the component tool, you can grab those lines and edge them back and clean them up a little bit. That's the beautiful thing about vector illustration is it's always fluid. So now I'm just using a single line for highlights, right? So that's just a really thick line with a round cap on the end, and I'm using that to simulate shine, you know, and the thinner it is, the kind of like the more specular the shine is going to be, and the thicker, the more kind of matte and dull. So now I'm going after that back fender, kind of blocking it out. Looking at this later, I kind of wish I would have made the fender and the sunscreen line. So right there, see, that's the tool I'm talking about. This is really awesome in Infinity. See how you just, that graph is how thick the line, and basically one end of the graph is the beginning of the line and one is the end and whatever shape you have. And as you move that up and down, that's the line thickness. Illustrator also has a thickness tool where it's a lot more detailed and hands-on, but it is also more tedious to use, and it used to drive me crazy because you have to be very precise. You can see that there you go, I just fixed it, but that cream colored border stroke was like slightly too dark, so I just evened it out by using the eyedropper. I think now I'm gonna make some like running boards for the bottom. So now I've set those inside, so see how the clipping layer, that rectangle is still the same rectangle, but it's using the van's body as kind of like almost like an alpha channel to cut out anything that's outside of the outline of that van. So now we're getting that, and I'm doing the same thing, just making more lines. But yeah, like I was saying, the beauty of vector art is it's very fluid and very it's so easy to edit. Like, it's so easy to change things. Like, I was doing a drawing the other day and decided to change the shape of like a large portion of the illustration, and in like pixel-based bitmap raster illustration, it would have been like a complete redo of a certain part of the photo. Right now I'm doing lighting because the top of the van is angled in, right? Like, so the van kinks in, so that's gonna be a little bit lighter. So that's just an overlay layer. So I'm gonna do it again right here. So I'm just taking a rectangle and making it match the kind of like shape of the fender, and then making it an overlay and toning it down a little bit. And that's how I do most of my lighting. And but yeah, vector art. So here's the wheel wells. It's just so fast. It's like so fast, and it's so clean. You can scale it up, you can scale it down. It doesn't get distorted. You don't have to worry about like making it, you know, the resolution of, you know, if you're gonna print it as a poster, if you're gonna print it as a sticker, it doesn't matter. Like, you can just totally scale it to whatever you need. So there's, see, asset recycling again. So just reusing that and just, you know, fitting it to the second wheel well. Adding a little bevel to that bumper. I'm gonna see how hot it is in San Jose. It's 95 degrees. It's super hot right now. And like, when I film like this, I have to turn all the fans and the AC off because they make too much noise. So I'm doing this for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. So there you go, using that. So I've used that reflector for the front turn signal, the back brake light, and now it's gonna be a fog light. And then also the other little like fog light was a headlight at one point, but you can get away with reusing stuff. I think lug nuts for the tires. Yeah, when you do stuff like this, being smart about your pivot point really helps a lot. So instead of like duplicating it and dragging it and trying to relocate it, so I just put the pivot right in the middle, and now they will all orbit around the center of the hub. So it makes it very simple. Same thing, I think I'm gonna add some like little holes in the rim, and the pivot's gonna go in the middle, and then I'm just gonna start, see right there? So now you don't have to, it's not like you turn it and then move it and turn it and move it. You're just orbiting it around the center of the pivot, or the center of the sphere, or the center of the circle. You're orbiting it around the center of the circle. I don't know what I'm doing now. Oh, I'm making a mirror and a little stand for the mirror. But yeah, see, rectangles. You're just taking rectangles and moving them, you know, to whatever shape you want. Or some people use circles, or you could use polygons. And you just kind of, you know, smudge it into the area that you want, and you're good to go. It's lots of bending stuff. It's so similar to 3D. Like, if anybody's watching does 3D modeling at all, it's like 2.5, right? Like 2.5D, because it's like, it's still two-dimensional flat, but you get all the layers, and then everything is modular. So it's very easy to go back and change. So there you guys added the black border layer, and then the cream colored outer layer for that little sun visor. And then here I'm gonna start doing some lighting on the mirror. So that's, like I was saying, so no stroke on the lighting layers, right? So it's just a flat shape that you do an overlay on, like in a brighter white, and then like, so that's literally the same object, just duplicating, and it's like silly putty, right? You just stretch it over the shape and kind of pick out where you think in your mind light's gonna land, you know? And it's pretty forgiving, and it's a nice look too. Like, it adds some depth to your design, and you can get as, like, my stuff tends to be pretty cartoony, but you can get as detailed as you want and start adding more bevels to the lighting. And man, I wish I drew this fast in real life. So now I'm gonna add some texture lines to the headlights, some just kind of like little details. And there you go. A little homage to Mr. T. Thanks for watching, sucker fool. But yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much the whole deal. Don't be intimidated by Victor. Look out for Victor. Don't be intimidated by vector art. I put it off for a really long time. I've been doing artwork professionally for a really long, 20 plus years, and then photography, and I kept putting off vector art. I dabbled with it in college and was awful at it. I hated it, and just recently I was just like, I'm gonna try it again, and I've really been enjoying it. Illustrator's great. Affinity is awesome. I would highly recommend Affinity Designer if you have an iPad and an Apple Pencil. It's pretty fantastic. So yeah, that's about all I got for you. If there's stuff you want to see in depth, hit me up on Reddit or hit me up on here in the comments or whatever. And thanks for watching, and I hope I answered some questions. I know that was really rushed. I just figured I was drawing that anyway, so I was like, why not capture it, and then I can try and talk over it and give some pointers. But maybe I'll do something that's not like a finished art piece, but just like showing on primitive shapes how you do different stuff and how the tools individually work. All right, thanks for watching. If you really dug this and you like my other stuff, if you like gear reviews, check it out, because there's a bunch of other stuff. I have a feeling there's gonna be a collision of worlds here, because this is much different from my usual videos, but I figured, hey, why not? People are asking about how to do something, so I'll give it a shot. So yeah, if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe, and keep checking in and seeing what I'm cranking out. And I really appreciate everybody checking out my stuff. All right, hopefully you are colder than I am, because it is hot. I'll catch you later. Bye. Hey everybody, back again real fast. Just announcing the winners from the last video for the Monterey Bay knives, Easy C, and the knife lubricant. It took me a little longer than I thought it was going to figure out how to fairly and randomly select winners out of the comment section, but I found a website that you plug the URL into, and then it randomly just picks comments. So let's go do that right now. All right, so the way this works is here's the video, and I grab the URL from there. And so there's this website, it's commentpicker.com, and what you do is you just load the URL in here. We'll go for the first one. So there's the knife and the 2 bottles of lube, standard and heavy. Let's see, there's 21 unique comments on that video, so you got a 1 in 21 chance of winning. So this is for the knife. The winning user for the knife is Will Davidson. Standard bottle of lube will be Tully Pick. You were in it to win it, my man. You won. So you got the standard bottle of lube, and then the heavy will be Michael Puchetti. And I agree with you in your comment that they should make a bigger version of that knife. It would be cool if it had a bigger blade and handle. All right, so congratulations to the winners. Yeah, that was cool. I think that's gonna be a regular thing. This stuff I review, I'll just start doing giveaways. And thanks to everybody that participated, and I'll see you next time.